What if the very thing you chase in secret is the seed of your public downfall? They've told you that lust is harmless, that it is human, that it is natural, that it's nothing more than a passing appetite to be indulged and forgotten. But hunger is natural too, and no one survives long if they let hunger dictate every move. A man who lets appetite lead him is not free. He is tethered to the table he should have commanded. Lust does not free you. It does not liberate your spirit. It is not a reward, not a blessing, not a harmless outlet. Lust is a leash. And the man who does not see the chain has already felt it tighten around his throat. You believe you are free when you chase it. You are not. Freedom is not doing whatever you wish. It is the strength to master yourself when every instinct screams otherwise. In the courts of Florence, power did not belong to the loudest, the boldest, or the most visible. It belonged to the disciplined, the ones who knew when to withhold, when to keep their eyes steady, when to guard their words. Every indulgence was recorded, even if no one spoke of it aloud. Every desire became a matter of public record, etched in the silent archives of memory and rumor. And when the moment came to strip a man of his lands, his title, or his influence, the evidence was not a bloody rebellion. It was the proof that his impulses commanded him more than he commanded them. Lust makes you confess without opening your mouth. It speaks through the way your eyes linger, through the decisions you make without reason, through the slow erosion of your will. Mystery is the first casualty of indulgence. When mystery dies, fear follows. And when fear dies, power collapses. The world does not attack lust. It feeds it. It wraps it in beauty, sells it to you with a smile, and you, thinking yourself clever, take part in the purchase of your own defeat. Every like, every swipe, every private indulgence is not just stored on some faraway server. It is recorded in your posture, in the way you hesitate when you should act, in the fog that settles over your focus. It is measured in your declining attention span, in your fractured will. When was the last time you looked temptation in the face and said no, truly said no, and walked away stronger because of it? Not with guilt, not with shame, but with a quiet grin that only those who've fought real battles understand. If you turned from it and felt regret, you are still a captive. But if you turned from it and felt the fire build within you, you were beginning to return to yourself. They tell you that you must express your desires, that suppression is toxic, that speaking your every craving is the road to authenticity. But expression without structure is not truth. It is chaos. And lust without boundaries is not liberation. It is erosion. The enemy does not need to meet you on the battlefield anymore. They can conquer you in your own bedroom. Lust has been monetized, branded, sold, and if your weakness can be priced, then so can the timing of your collapse. Look around. Men do not fall on battlefields now. They fall in the quiet darkness of their own rooms, not by the sword, but by the screen. Their kingdoms are not stolen by invaders, but drained by comments, by pixels, by hours lost to things that create nothing. Once you fought for your name. Now you trade it for momentary stimulation. Once you built for your bloodline. Now you spend your strength in silence and call it escape. This is not only personal, it is political. A man ruled by lust will not rebel. He will not stand. He will not build. He will scroll. He will submit. And he will forget he was ever a threat. Power belongs to the man who can sit still while the world dangles pleasure in front of him. To the man who smiles, not because he receives what he wants, but because he refuses what others expect him to want. The man who cannot be tempted cannot be predicted. And the man who cannot be predicted is the most dangerous creature alive. Lust thrives on repetition. It demands your predictability. It wants you clicking, chasing, circling back. until you no longer ask the most important question: is this truly my choice, or was it chosen for me? A wolf does not chase every rabbit. He waits, he watches, he selects his moment. Hunger is not an order, it is a test. Fail that test and you become desperate. And desperation is the final nail in the coffin of kings. Imagine a young prince seated in a chamber lined with maps and gold. Outside, a feast roars with laughter and wine. Inside, he studies in silence. A courtesan is offered to him. He declines, not because he is timid, but because he is taking the measure of his own pulse, sculpting his character as if it were stone. This is the true throne, the ability to observe desire without bending to it. Every time you resist, you sharpen. Every time you say no, you carve the edges of who you are meant to be. And every time you walk away, you build something that no algorithm, no manipulator, no seducer can touch. Mystique. Lust destroys mystique. It makes you visible. And what is visible is easy to reach, easy to grasp, easy to predict. A man always available is not a man of power. He is a product on display. The rulers you never hear boast about their goodness. They are feared not for what they have done, but for what they are capable of. They do not announce their urges, they transmute them. They do not chase, they attract loyalty. They do not broadcast needs, they turn need into strategy. If a spy observed your life, what would he report? Would he say you command yourself, or would he note that you are ruled? The mirror does not lie. It reflects the habits you repeat day after day. Lust begins as a whisper, creeping like fog rather than roaring like fire. It slips into your routines so subtly that you cannot tell where you end and it begins. It convinces you that one glance, one scroll, one night of indulgence carries no cost. But every whisper leaves a fingerprint, and every fingerprint loosens your grip on your own will. This is why empires collapse, not in the shock of invasion, but in the quiet corrosion of distraction. Generals stop convening. Soldiers stop sharpening their blades. Treasuries leak not from theft, but from negligence. Kings look outside their palaces for what they have not yet conquered within themselves. Lust is not evil. It is not even immoral. It is simply raw energy without a master. And energy without a master serves whoever holds the leash. If you do not govern your impulses, they will be governed for you. Watch it unfold. You delay your work, you skip your training, you let your mind drift into fantasies because it feels like progress to imagine victories without earning them. Lust hijacks your imagination, replacing ambition with craving. It offers visions without demanding sweat. And the only price it asks is your time, your focus, your attention. A leak so slow you don't notice until the reservoir is dry. The tragedy is not that you think you are in control. The tragedy is that you believe you can stop at any time, that it's harmless, that it's simply part of being a man. But the man who must explain his impulses has already been claimed by them. You never justify your strength, you justify your weakness. That is why you must study lust the way a general studies an enemy. Dissect it. Understand how it enters your life, how it hides, what false promises it whispers, and the real price it demands. Avoidance alone is not power. Command is power. Imagine a lion in a cage, well-fed, petted, safe. His strength does not vanish in a day, but over time, his roar becomes ordinary. His steps lose their purpose, his eyes forget the horizon, his claws remain, but the will to use them fades. This is the modern man, fed endlessly by images, options, and screens. His instincts remain sharp, but dulled under the weight of constant indulgence. His mind is still capable of greatness, but clouded by gratification. His fire still burns, but it is buried under layers of comfort. And this is the trap. Lust doesn't have to destroy you. It only has to delay you. A delayed man misses his moment. A distracted man loses his path. And a man without a path cannot lead anyone, not even himself. The answer is not to run from it blindly, because discipline without understanding is nothing but a clenched fist waiting to tire. Frustration always seeks release, and without direction, it will drag you back to the same chains you tried to escape. The solution is not suppression, it is transmutation. The same heat that once burned you must be reforged into a weapon. The same hunger that pulled you downward must become the hunger that builds your foundation. Take the restless energy and channel it into strategy, into movement, into creation. Let the tension become the pressure behind your craft. Let the craving fuel a deeper appetite, not for indulgence, but for victory. Every man is born with fire, but few understand the forge. Your mind is your battlefield, and your urges are your soldiers. They are not to be dismissed or ignored, they are to be commanded. When you do this, you will notice something subtle yet undeniable. The air around you changes. People will not be able to name it, but they will feel it. The stillnesses in your eyes, the calm refusal to be pulled toward what pulls every other man like a tide. They will see the difference between a man who wants and a man who decides. Lust is noisy. Power is silent. History remembers those who could delay gratification long enough to position themselves beyond reach. Every fortress you admire, every throne you respect, every legacy that echoes centuries beyond its creator was not built by speed, but by focus. To become focused, you must cut through noise. Begin small. Delay the indulgence by a minute, then 5, then 15. Not as punishment, but as proof. Proof that you are not led by invisible strings, that your kingdom is not ruled by shadows. Each moment of resistance rewrites your identity, not from weak to strong, but from obvious to unreadable. Because this is what lust truly robs you of, your unpredictability. When you are known, you are predictable. When you are predictable, you can be controlled. And when you can be controlled, you are no longer a sovereign, you are a servant. You must become the opposite. Move when they expect you to be still, and be still when they expect you to move. Appear only when your absence has weight. Speak only when your silence has prepared the ground. Let them wonder what you want. Let them guess what you crave. Let them fail to measure you because their measurements no longer apply. The man who does not need the same bait cannot be trapped in the same net. A man becomes dangerous the moment he learns to delay his own pleasure without flinching. The world counts on your speed, your need to react, your rush to claim, your thirst to answer temptation without thought. They design their snares around it. But when you respond with stillness, the machine begins to falter. The bait spoils. The hand behind the curtain grows nervous. You, once predictable, become a question they cannot solve. Lust is the oldest predictive model. It trusts your biology, it banks on your boredom, and it thrives on your repetition. It offers silhouettes, fantasies, and triggers disguised as choices, whispering that you deserve this. But entitlement is a paper crown, and a man wearing it walks into battle naked. You deserve nothing. You earn everything. And lust is not confined to the body. It evolves. It adapts. It becomes the lust for applause, the lust for comfort, the lust for effortless reward. It is any impulse that demands a return without requiring resistance. Any whisper that says, now, when discipline says, not yet. The true battle is not with lust. It is with urgency. The man who reacts fast is useful. The man who responds slow is feared. The greatest men in history were not the quickest to anger, nor the fastest to reach for gratification. They moved like stone, deliberate, measured, and relentless. Many of them lived as though in monasteries, not because they despised pleasure, but because they recognized its cost. Pleasure is a tax, and an ungoverned tax becomes a chain. That is why your unavailability is what they fear most. When you withdraw your attention, you reclaim your time. When you reclaim your time, you rebuild your strategy. And when you have your strategy, you remember who you were before you were distracted. The man who succumbs to lust is not just giving up control. He is leasing out his soul in minutes and moments. Each tap, each click, each gaze is a micro-payment of his will. And what is left when the will has been spent? A man who scrolls more than he builds, who flinches more than he strikes, who imagines more than he acts. Consider the general in his war tent. Maps spread before him, the weight of entire cities on his mind. Now imagine he stops mid-strategy to answer the knock of a jester or a courtesan. Would you call him sovereign or compromised? And yet modern man is invited to answer that knock every moment, through his phone, through his cravings, through his undisciplined mind. You are not weak because you feel the pull of lust. You are weak because you believe you must answer it. A sovereign does not open every door. There must be thresholds, walls, moments when the answer is simply, no more. And when you say it, you do not mutter in apology. You declare it with finality. Let them misunderstand. Let them call you cold, detached, unapproachable. Their misunderstanding feeds your mystique, and mystique is the soil in which respect, fear, and fascination grow. You do not owe the world your accessibility. You owe your future your preparation. Track the cost of your indulgence not in money, but in moments. Every moment surrendered to lust is a moment stolen from mastery. Beauty is common. Discipline is rare. And the man who masters his desires is magnetic, not because he shouts his strength, but because it radiates from the quiet certainty that he will not be moved. This cannot be faked. It cannot be mimicked. It is forged in solitude, tested in temptation, and revealed in silence. You do not prove your strength by announcing it. You prove it by refusing what they believe you cannot refuse. That is the turning point. Not reaching for distraction when discomfort appears, but greeting discomfort as a teacher. There is a reason kings once surrounded themselves with walls of stone, rituals, and silence. It was not to hide from their people, but to guard against the erosion of presence. The more visible you are, the more vulnerable you become. Lust pulls you from your fortress into the marketplace, where you are displayed, priced, and made accessible. And once you are accessible, you are predictable. It doesn't stop there. Lust does not just make you visible, it makes you audible. Your thoughts grow loud, scattered. You speak when you should watch. You move when you should wait. Soon, you are no longer acting. You are reacting. This is the beginning of collapse. Not with defeat, but with noise. A powerful man is quiet. His name moves ahead of him like a shadow cast by fire. When he enters a room, people feel his presence not because he demands it, but because he withholds it. Lust teaches the opposite. It teaches you to beg for attention, to market your value instead of deepening it, to perform in the hopes of being chosen. But the marketplace of desire has no loyalty. It rewards novelty, not depth, compliance, not character. When your worth depends on what you display, you will always be pressured to display more. This is not freedom. This is servitude. The man who lives for lust is not a ruler. He is a performer. And every performance ends the same way. Exhausted, unseen, desperate for applause that never lasts. The alternative is to return to your throne, rebuild your rituals, reclaim your silence, restore the space between your desire and your decision. You do not chase, you create gravity. Gravity does not plead, it pulls. Presence is not about walking loudly, but about seeing deeply. The man ruled by lust sees only bait. The man ruled by restraint studies the hook. From here, everything changes. You stop seeking power through reaction. You gain it through invisibility. You no longer prove your worth. You let it become undeniable. Mystique becomes your armor. The less they know of your impulses, the harder it is to move you. And if they cannot move you, they cannot own you. Lust is a map to your weaknesses. Every indulgence marks a location, a habit, a pattern. And in a world where data is power, your lust becomes your blueprint. They know when you scroll, when you stop, when you stare too long. They know where to place the next trap. And they do not need to chase you. You walk willingly into the net. That net is not rope or chain. It is habit. The only escape is to become unreadable again, not by hiding, but by evolving. You do not simply delete the app. You delete the impulse. You do not merely block the number, you block the need. You do not just walk away from temptation, you outgrow it. And when you outgrow something, it no longer speaks your language. It no longer ignites the hunger it once did. In that silence, sovereignty returns. Not because you refused every pleasure, but because you learned the cost of chasing what was never meant to lead you. They will not teach you this. Your strength does not serve them. Their systems are built on your indulgence, their profits on your weakness, their control on your hunger for immediate satisfaction. But you were not placed here to feel endlessly. You were placed here to build. And a builder cannot afford the constant leak of energy that lust demands. Every surrendered urge is a wall unfunded. Every craving obeyed is a blueprint delayed. Every fantasy entertained is a throne left empty. The choice is always quiet. Either you master your fire, or you burn with it. And you know this truth already. You have seen the work of lust, not in theory, but in the world around you. You have seen men who once moved with purpose, now pacing rooms like prisoners, their eyes dull from years lost to habit disguised as freedom. You have seen friends vanish into obsession, lose months to fantasy, and forfeit entire futures for moments that left them emptier than before. Lust does not roar in its destruction. It seeps like water through the foundations, softening the structure until it collapses. It clouds vision, slows momentum, replaces creation with simulation. You mistake stimulation for satisfaction. You feel busy, but nothing is built. You feel tired, but nothing is done. That is its genius, to give you the sensation of reward without any of the reality. This is why indulgence is so dangerous. It teaches you a false equation. Reward without risk. Attention without action. Connection without commitment. You take the scraps and call them banquets, forgetting you were made for more. You were not designed to sit, to scroll, to salivate over shadows. You were made for precision, for conquest, not only over land and title, but over the unruly empire of your own instincts. The greatest victory is always internal. No kingdom is harder to rule than yourself. The battlefield is not measured in miles, but in seconds, the seconds between impulse and action. That instant is your throne. Win it, and the rest of your life becomes architecture. Lose it, and the rest becomes apology. This has nothing to do with guilt. Guilt is a leash. Power is a decision. And your decisions echo far beyond the moment you make them. They shape your posture, your presence, your reputation. One night of distraction can dull the instinct you need to protect your legacy. One surrendered impulse can cost you the edge you needed in battle. You are not addicted to lust. You are addicted to leaking your own power. Releasing it feels easier than wielding it. But what happens when you hold it? Not forever, only long enough to feel it sharpen, to let it rise and swell until it fuels something greater, your ambition, your discipline, your creation. This is not suppression. This is alchemy. The transmutation of hunger into direction, desire into strategy, craving into conquest. The lion does not waste his hunger on shadows. He waits, he watches, and when he moves, the movement is final. This is what you must become. Not a man constantly resisting, but a man who has outgrown the need to resist. The bait no longer works, the trap no longer fits, the performance no longer seduces. This shift begins in your identity. You are no longer the boy chasing sensation. You are the architect, the strategist, the presence that alters a room without demanding it. And here is the truth they will never admit. Lust is loud because your silence terrifies them. When you go quiet, they cannot place you. They cannot price you. They cannot predict you. And in a world that worships access, being unreadable is the final power. You regain it not with noise, but with disappearance, into your craft, into your preparation, into the slow building of something they cannot measure. One day you return, sharpened, unmoved, undeniable. They will ask what happened to you, but they will already know. You stopped leaking. You started leading. Every man arrives at the edge where he must decide who commands his life. Not the world, not the woman, not the screen, himself. This choice is never made in public. It happens in the quiet hours, when no one watches, when the mirror is your only witness. In those moments, kings are forged, or men bow to their lower appetites, wearing the costume of freedom while living in chains. You know the traps. You've seen the cost. Now the question is whether you will answer not with excuses, but with absence. Lust is a game of attention. The only winning move is to step away. Your withdrawal is rebellion. Your focus is a declaration. Let them keep their circus. You are not a performer. You are not for sale. Your energy is not for barter. You decide where it flows and where it is denied. Lust will always want more, but the man who has enough within himself cannot be bought. Such a man becomes a mirror, and mirrors are dangerous. They reflect what others refuse to see. Be that mirror, cold, still, unapologetically clear. Let them blur themselves in fantasy. You will move through it like a blade. You will build something lust cannot touch, a presence that is unshakable, a legacy forged not through noise, but through the governance of self. That is what makes you rare. And in a world drowning in exposure, rare becomes royal. Your silence will be misunderstood. Your restraint will be mocked. Your absence will be questioned. Let them wonder. While they talk, you will build.